So here we have a battery bombed Macintosh IIci board. Now I could just park this board out, of course, and not have to worry about it and just throw it in my part stash. Or I could at least attempt to fix it and see if we can actually make this thing or like a resurrection. But we've definitely got some destroyed traces that likely are not going to be any good. And it kind of runs all the way up through the top here and around to the data bus. Actually, it's going to the SCSI bus, I think. A lot of it's going to the SCSI and floppy. Alright, so I've been going through this board bit by bit, and one thing I'm learning is you see these little green patches here and here. Like there's a couple there. There's a metric ton of them over here, for example. One there, one there, one there. Just these little light green spots. Every single one of those is open. The threshold of this particular project, we've crossed it. So I think at this point I'm not going to repair this board or even attempt to resurrect it because there's just way too many traces that need repair. So I would be here for days running patch wires trying to figure all of these out. So alright, so why did I get another 2CI? Well, honestly, I have no idea. But the attractive part about it for me was, I'll show you in about 2 seconds. That was the attractive part about it. So that, my friends, is a Macintosh 2CI reloaded board. So, remember the battery bombed board? We now have a brand new motherboard to populate with those parts. And what in the world is that? Huh. Interesting. Wispa Gold. Never heard of it. Not gonna lie though, that board looks so sexy. It's so cool. Version 1.0, March 1st, 2024, drawn by Max1ZZZ. So, the schematics for the Macintosh 2CI was very recently released on the internet. I don't know if it ever made it public yet, but pretty much everyone has it. And a handful of others have been slowly coming out. But the 2CI schematic came out, so then this board was designed based around that schematic, and it worked. Now, I don't recall if he got it to work first try, or maybe if he had to implement Apple bodges. I'm not sure. I already see one bodge right here, so maybe he had to do a bodge. So it's a pretty little machine, though. That board looks gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie. That's a gorgeous little board. So this though, this is gonna be a lot of work. Now, I didn't have the machine this board went to. I got this board in a parts lot, and then I got this machine separately. It didn't have a board in it because I think this machine suffered the same problem. You can kind of see how badly corroded the hard drive is. This suffered from battery rot. So that board goes in this case. So we're going to just build a new one. This is one of the first revision 2CI reloaded boards for the 2CI. This when I got this project, it hadn't been released yet. I don't know if it has by now, probably. And I know there was a bug in the board where that had to be drilled out, and I think it was fixed in a later revision of this board. But for now, we need to build this board. This is going to take a long time and a lot of work to get all of the parts off of this board and moved over. The other problem is this chip here is completely destroyed. So I don't know if I'm going to have that one. I got to look in my parts bin to see if I have one of these from another board. I already had to steal this chip and this chip off of this board for the other one. But I got to find those to put them back on here. And I think I have a 2CX or even a 2SI parts board that's also bombed that I can move things over. We'll check and see what we got. Alright, so right now I am using OBS. I don't know how well this is going to work. So instead of recording directly onto the phone, I'm using OBS on the computer because if I do a time lapse of all of this, it's going to take a long, there's going to be tons and tons and tons of footage because it's going to take a long time. Anyways, the other thing I want to make a note too is I got this reloaded board out, and there's actually a few little mistakes. One, there's a hole drilled out here in the new bus slot where there was a mistake, so that's not a big deal. These are pre-release boards, by the way. The other thing I wanted to make notice of too is if we look careful between here and here, and actually someone alerted me to this, and I double checked, and yeah, he was right. So this is the DAC. This is a 478 chip, which is what's in a Weather Star, and then we have the SCSI chip over here. But if you look at this board here, that's SCSI and that's DAC, which is clearly not correct because that is connected to the SCSI port. Also, the other thing I wanted to point out too is there's no pin 1 indicators anywhere on this board. So you have to pay very close attention because it looks like there's a little line here, which kind of, yeah, I suppose that makes sense because I'm used to looking at a taper like this. That makes sense. That does not make sense. Why isn't there a taper here? Yeah, that's strange to me. That's strange to me. It's probably just a default footprint that was chosen from KiCad or KiCad or whatever it's called to build this thing. Alright, so method of attack here. I think what I want to do is I probably want to actually remove all the chips first. I want to get some good reference photos of this board so I know where everything goes, because the layout should be one for one here. Get all the chips off the board first, figure out where everything goes, and then we move all the parts over to this first, because I want to get everything soldered down on a flat surface first and then go back and do all the bird seed that's on the bottom. Because the longest time consuming thing that I see here is doing this bird seed, because there is a lot of bird seed here. I mean, it's crazy. So, and some of this bird seed may or may not even be salvageable because there's a lot of eaten away traces here, or solder joints that are oxidized. So that'll be interesting. I'm gonna have to check. That one's not populated. Yeah, there's a, ugh, look at these two. These two are stomping all over one another. Whoops. That needs to be relocated. Again, this is a pre-release prototype run of this board. I'm sure that was fixed in a later version. We have this LED here, which is completely eaten away. So I don't think that's going to be salvageable. Ooh, look at this. There's 3 resistors here, but they're not on this one. R108, 109, and 107. Where are you? Are you on the top side? Or are you missing? Yeah, there's a little bit of discrepancies here. So there's a resistor here, and then there's 2 caps here, but not here. There's this. The bird seed does not line up. So some liberties were taken into account. So those, that's right, that's right, that's right, that's okay. But we got an extra C148, which I don't know where you go. And then we have 3 resistors that are missing. 104, that's 100 k ohms. So we got 3 100 k ohm resistors that are missing. Now, it's entirely possible that those resistors are used for the test edge connector, where it says burn in. This board doesn't have that. So that might have been why, or what, I don't know. Alright, so we have a speaker jack there. Our 2 buttons. Everything else looks about right. That's right. So we have multiple clock domains here, so 50 megahertz. The crystals don't look like they got damaged, so they might be okay. God, there's 1, 2, 3. There's 5 crystals on this thing. 6, 7. Is there any I'm missing? No, not that I can see. Wow. Okay. Here's the other fun part. So these are poly fuses. They're meant to be self-resetting fuses. Installing these are going to be gymnastics because these things can unsolder themselves. So gotta be careful with that. We got some diodes here. Are they on that bottom of that board? No. See, so many discrepancies here. Actually, no, I'm looking at it wrong. Ah, yeah, there they are. They're right there. Then there's 3. UE13, UD, UB. Those things get eaten away from Capco. Alright, well, we got to do all of those. We got to do the processor. You can tell this thing was exposed to the battery fumes for a while because there's a lot of corrosion here. Anyways, I think we have a plan of attack. So that's that. that's the problem with using that kind of flux. As I gotta, because these solder joints are all corroded, so I'm cleaning them up in order to be able to unsolder them. To do that, you have to use flux to try to eat through it. Well, the problem with that kind of flux is it plugs up that pump extremely rapidly. Like, I even went through and cleaned the reeds and stuff, and it still sounds very clogged. So it's not, it's just, I need a Metcal, but I can't afford that shit. Holy crap, that was an ass load of work. And I had to order some new parts for this thing because the added heat of the heat gun plus this type of flux and the continuous usage of this thing has messed up the pump assembly and it's making weird noises and it's not working that well anymore. I've tried to clean the reed a couple of times and it's gone. It's got to be replaced. Anyways, so all of the through hole parts have been stripped off now. The floppy connector and the SCSI connector, I don't care about. The solder joints were heavily corroded and they just didn't want to let loose. And I'm just like, heck with it. I can replace those. These, not so much because I don't have them. I was able to save most of them. The problem with this was a lot of those pins were folded over and I went to bend them back up. They snapped because they're very weak. So we'll have to work with that. Also, some of these SIM sockets, I saved them because they're metal clips, but they're kind of corroded. So I'm going to have to clean these up a bit. Probably using like vinegar or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out in a minute. Anyways, all of the through-hole parts are now off the board. The ones that I care about anyways. So at this point, it's about saving all of the actual PLCCs and TQFPs and all of that stuff now. Trying to figure out the best way to do that. I'm probably, because I threw all the connectors in this little bowl up here, because whatever, I don't care. But I want to take all the semiconductors and set them somewhere else. So I need a place to do that. Then the only thing left after that is all of these little piddly parts, like the little caps and the bird seed and stuff like that, which will be the last thing that I transfer over. And some of this stuff is so heavily corroded, I don't know if they're going to be savable, but we will see. We shall see. We'll see what happens. Alright, so I got all the small stuff removed from the board. That little tiny hot air tool is not going to remove these big chips. You know, I don't have the right adapter for those. So, we're just going to use the big heat gun that does not have controllable heat, which is dangerous because if you're not careful, you can quickly overheat these and cause them to blister. And then when they blister, that's it. They're done. So you got to be careful with these. Anyways, however, I know that heat gun fairly well, so I just have to be careful with it. The big ICs are now removed. I didn't hear any popcorning or blistering or anything like that, so I think we're good there. Um, the board did get warped a little bit, and that's the downside of not using a preheater. Okay, that just leaves that on there, this stuff, and all this little piddly stuff, which I don't care too much about. The big problem I have is how do I flow these guys? Because I want to do the hardest ones first, and that's these three here. I got to figure out how to flow those guys onto the new board without damaging the new board, because I don't want it warping from the heat. So I don't think I want to be able to use reflow soldering on that board the way I did this. I might have to do it by hand, which is not going to be fun at all. This one, ew, yeah, I'm not too keen on doing that by hand. I might just figure out how to hot air reflow that one in. We'll have to see. Anyways, I need to take this stuff. I put this in a little hole on purpose because these are the ones that are corroded from cap juice and battery bomb and all of that. This guy here is probably beyond saving. I have some spares on parts boards I can reuse. But the rest of them, yeah, we're going to try to clean those up with like vinegar and a toothbrush and let it soak a bit and see what we can do with that. I've never replaced or soldered these 030 chips before, so that was like the hardest chip that I had to solder. That was a pain in the ass because trying to drag solder it was just, it was, even with all the extra flux, it kept bridging. I had to clean it up, and then, anyways, not fun, but it's in there. These are a little bit better to solder, but these, holy crap. These were arguably the worst ones to get installed. But they're in there. Let me double check I put the right ones in the right spots. Because, let's see. Yep, that's right. Let's see. Pin 1. Yep. 1018. Yep. I got a photo here I'm looking at. 1019. Yes. 1019. Because I have like this little picture I took. Anyway, so that's all good. Wow, that was a pain in the ass. So, once again, when they designed this board, they didn't make these pads wide enough to allow you to hand solder any of this stuff. So, it is very difficult to hand solder this, especially these PLCCs. So, I'm going to have to take a different approach. What I'm probably going to have to do is tin up these pads and to give me a little bit of a base of solder to set on, and then flux it and reflow solder the chip in place, because this is a nightmare. all of the most complicated parts are finally installed on the board. Now, I wish I had a preheater. I don't. And it shows because what happens is when I reflow these chips in with the hot air tool, it starts to do this to the board, and it's not perfect. I mean, it flattened back out a little bit, but it's still not, you know. Anyways, so all of those parts are installed now. Now I have to do the less straightforward thing, and that is the real-time clock, because unfortunately this one's just too far gone. There's no saving that. So we got to find something that will fit in its place. So I have another battery bombed classic board, which isn't going to work out so well because, well, the part that I need is right there in the battery zone. So no, this won't work. However, it has the other things on it that I could need, because remember, we were missing this one here because we had to borrow it for another job. So I can steal that one to move over here. But I can also steal both connectors to move over here in here. So I have, you know, those parts. So that brings us to this one, which was an old Centris 610 board or something. I don't know. I stole parts off of it along the way to use and fix other devices. But guess what we have here? We have our, what is that, 343 S0042, which is what I need, and it's crystal. The cap next to that chip got a little baked, but that was, I think that was the Gazelle, or it was something. I needed the parts. Okay, let's see. The other thing we were missing is we were missing this 240. The other one was just corroded to high hell, so I need two 240s, which I don't think this board has. I don't see any. No. However, this board does. This is another parts board that's just completely eaten beyond any salvageability. But we have our 240s right there. Now, these are the F240s, but it's in the same type of circuit. Because remember, we have a new chip here. Same thing we got going on over here. So I can use those guys over there. So there's our solution. And I have more of these connectors I could use if I need them. Holy crap. Ooh, my back hurts, my neck hurts. I've been hunched over and hunched over. So all of the parts have been transferred over. Now I did have a couple of mishaps. I lost this one. I don't know what happened to it. So I had to pull one off of a parts board. And I lost another one up here somewhere. So again, I pulled it off the parts board. So C118 and C37 I had to pull off of here. Now I have the schematic, so I had to verify that all the values are accurate. But it's all on here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that's missing, but it's also missing on the original. That's normal. So the 3 resistors that were down here were relocated up here. So I placed those down. Wow, this board was making some interesting smells when I was heating up the parts. It almost smells like pure stomach acid vomit. It's disgusting. All right, well, now it's time to start stuffing in all the through-hole parts. And hopefully this thing works, because crap. Alright, so I'm down to basically the last few parts. I don't have the ROM chips, so I'm going to use the SIM. I am concerned about those RAM sockets because they're kind of dodgy from the battery goo, because the battery goo kind of went through the front of the board a little bit. They're a little dingy, they're not bad. I cleaned them up in vinegar. I'm probably going to go after them with a little bit of deoxit and a toothbrush just to make sure, but the only reason why I saved those is one, they're getting a bit pricey and hard to find, but two, they have the metal clips. That's the only reason why. If these were plastic ones, I wouldn't have saved them. Pretty much like this board here. This board here is just an old 2X board I had in my junk bin. It's got plastic clips. I got to steal the RAM from this one because I'm a little short on 30-pin SIMs, so I'm going to have to steal the RAM from this one. This one is really, really rotten. Even this is after removing the caps and washing it before I put it in the storage. But, yeah, it's extremely rotten, and even back in here a little bit. But anyway, so these RAM sims have the plastic clips. Like, for example, I would have not saved those. Fortunately, this one's not battery bombed. It's just capacitor rotten. Anyways, the only reason why I saved this board is I don't have any 2CXs. I got rid of the one that I did have. It has the same chipset as an SE30, so I could use this board to build up an SE30 reloaded board if I wanted to. Actually, the more I'm thinking about it, that chip looks to be the same as the one that's needed there. Huh. I might steal that for this one. Because again, this doesn't belong to a machine. This is a parts board. So, anyways, I need that RAM before I can do some actual testing. Wow, we are nearing the finish line. It's within reach. RAM is populated. Only thing left to do now is to find an LED to go in there, because the original one is just, it's completely rotten away by battery goo. It's not even salvageable, but I can keep the container thing. So I'm going to go in my stash and see if I can't find this to put in here, and then we'll just toss that in there and we can actually test this thing. Well, depends on how good the power supply is that I have that's going to plug in here, because that part I don't know. And then once I know it works, I can populate these remaining 4 plugs, because I don't want to do that if I have to rework these chips, because otherwise I'm going to EOL those sockets. So this jumper is supposed to be jumpered to read the ROM, which is not installed, so I can just leave that open and just use a ROM sim. It should work, you know, in theory. And actually, I may not even need to mess with that LED for now. I can just hook this thing up for power up. Now, since I'm lazy, I don't feel like recapping that power supply right now, I decided to go get the one from my good 2CI that I know works. So, oh boy. this is scaring me because I do not know what to expect. I don't know if this is gonna work or if it's not. This is oh god, I'm so scared. I don't know why I'm so scared, but all right. Well, it's got standby power. Oh, it chimed. It gave me the death chimes, but it chimed. Although that's not a 2CI ROM. This is one of those. Wow, it worked. It's giving me a sad Mac, but I don't know what. The fact that it chimes, though. Oh, man. We're getting somewhere. It's probably complaining about the RAM because I don't know if this RAM is any good. I don't actually know at all. This came from a 2CX board that was just unknown. Ooh, now it got quiet. Well, we're getting somewhere. You know what I think why it got quiet? These jacks are notorious for causing problems. Alright, well, that's bad and good news simultaneously. Bad news because we still have a fault in this board somewhere. But good news because the board is working. I mean, it's actually trying to run. Now, I'm going to try another ROM sim because I have another one in here that's a ROMinator. I had someone make me an actual 2CI ROM, but I don't know where it went. I put it up somewhere for this project, and it's buried in the hoard. I don't know where it is. So we're gonna try this Doug Brown ROM sim and see if this thing works. Cause I don't know. Let's see. Nah. Nope. So we got a fault somewhere in this board. It's probably gonna be that, but I don't know. Let me remove that just for the sake of conversation. Ow. I like these metal tabs though. The fact that it's running and it's giving me a death chime is actually a really good thing. Because most people don't like death chimes. Because it's generally a bad thing. Not in this case. In this case, it's a good thing because the board's running. Wait for standby to come up. There it is. Either this RAM is bad, or more likely these sockets are still dodgy. Which makes sense because these are the ones that were heavily corroded down here from the battery bombs. So, wow, it's working! It's working! Oh my god, it's working. Sorry, I'm freaking out because first try, well, second try after removing the RAM, it's running. Whoa! Alright, well, what do we do from here? First off, I need to go locate the right ROM sim because this is the 2SI ROM, not the 2CI ROM. So the fact it's working is impressive, which means the 2CI is architecturally similar to the 2SI. You know, it makes sense if you want to get the Mac OS to work regardless. So it is working. It's just we have a problem with the RAM sockets, probably. I doubt it's this. Although you can never be too sure, can you? Alright, well, okay. Let's go find that other ROM sim. Alright, so I took my little bit. It's the only thing I have in here where I can get in there and kind of scrape at the sockets. So I scraped at the sockets and we're good. So that's what it is. It's just dodgy sockets. Now, what I could do is these are the metal tab sockets. Now, this is a pain in the ass. I could get some of the broken plastic tab sockets. In fact, I've got so many of them, and I can steal the pins out of there because those pins will press out and press back in. I can press those pins out and insert new pins in there from broken sockets to fix these because these are the metal clip ones that I want to keep. But that's assuming it's going to start giving me issues. Right now, it's not giving me any issues now that I cleaned them up a bit, so we're good. Now I just got to go try to locate the correct ROM sim because I don't know where it is, unfortunately. I cannot find the ROM sim for the life of me. It was one of those satanic Mac ROM sims, which I'm pretty sure was the same color of this board. And it's funny because I've got two Macintosh portable hybrids I can't find either. I had to order new ones. So I give up. It just is what it is. That's the wrong ROM sim, and I do not have a programmer for these. So I'm going to have to pull these chips off individually and program them individually, which is a pain in the ass. But yeah, I don't know where that ROM sim went. It's just missing. But I can't get hung up on that. I've got to move on. So I want to get the sockets soldered in there because everything seems to be working. And then, actually, no, I take that back. I don't want to do that. I'll put this end one in so I can test the Ethernet card to make sure it works. And then probably, heck with it. I'll just put them all in. Hell with it. Put them all in, and then now that I know it chimes and works fine, and then we'll get the power supply rebuilt because it's one of those situations where it's going to need caps.